Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Essential Channel. This is Isabel Inclán, and now my guest today is the MP Michael Coteau, who represents Science 2021, the federal riding of Don Valley East. This is the north of Toronto, northeast of Toronto. Welcome, MP Michael Coteau.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing to support the community and provide information from what's happening in places like politics back to people directly. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Okay, and just as a background, on February 10, just a few months ago, the Commission of Electoral Boundaries proposed practically disappear your riding, the Don Valley East, DVE, and disappear this actually to split this riding and just be absorbed by the nearest ridings like Scarborough and DVP. So my first question is, the commission argument that there is not enough representation to justify that riding. So my question for you is, the percentage of the population in your riding is a good reason to propose to disappear this riding?
Well, you know, if we go back just over a decade ago, Don Valley East had well over 100,000 people. It was close to 120,000 people. And back in 2015, in that federal election, they cut the riding in half. So it created the new riding of Don Valley North. So we were down to just above 90,000 people in our riding. You know, Don Valley East has been a riding that's been around for almost 50 years. Very vibrant neighborhood and community, representing places like Flemington Park, Winford, the Don Mills community, Victoria Village. And I would say that it is a very vibrant, healthy community. And for the Electoral Boundary Commission to split the riding into three, because there is a small section going to Don Valley North, a part going to Don Valley South, which would be a new riding, and Scarborough Centre, Don Valley East would be the new name of the other half of the riding that's will be joining with Scarborough. But my point is, this was a healthy community. A healthy electoral area that, you know, that really was looking for ways to develop itself by aligning with the right type of organizations, the pressures such as, like, you know, challenges newcomers come from, our school districts, our policing, our healthcare system. We're all aligned, you know, nicely with these boundaries. And the Federal Commission put forward a report on February 10th without any consultation, suggesting that they divide the riding in three. And people in the community are very, very upset about that.
Yeah, and I have here actually your very detailed document. Is this your response to the commission why it needs to keep that Don Valley East riding? And in what part you mentioned about the difference between quotas and community interest? I could add that it is most important how many people lives there, or who is living there, who is living in that, what needs they will to reach in this riding. So what can you tell about that balance or imbalance about those?
Well, you know, Don Valley East is a very multicultural community. It's one of the most multicultural communities, I would say, in the entire country. It's home to the largest Ismaili population in North America. I believe around 4,000 to 6,000. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but you know, it's the largest community of Ismailis in North America. It does have the third largest Muslim population in Canada. A lot of those folks are made up of people from, you know, places like Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and especially with the Afghani population, a lot of them are newcomers. So a lot of the community services that we have in place are specifically there to support community members that may need some help when it comes to settlement services, et cetera. We also have a large, about 5% of the Black population and a growing rapidly Filipino population in the community that's been there for quite some time, but they add to the vibrancy of the neighborhood. So, the big challenge for us is, like, you take a place like Flemington Park. In the last decade, it's been moved 3 times. If this proposal goes through, 3 different electoral boundaries in just over a decade, and to us that's unacceptable, especially when you don't give the community the opportunity to participate in a process that is based on an idea. Like, this map has never ever been consulted on. And we don't think it's the right thing to do to go ahead and use that map without giving the community the ability to talk about it and to share their ideas.
Okay, I know you grew up in this district, in this riding, and you know very well the community. So, what could be the impact to these communities? You mentioned newcomers and immigrants from Philippines, Muslims, and India. So what could be the impact, the consequence of this?
The biggest impact, and this is a very important part of why people are upset in the community. The biggest impact is that you're basically saying, by not allowing people in the community to participate in discussing this new map that never ever was presented as an option. In fact, prior to this map being introduced, the commission was going to expand Don Valley East. That's what they actually consulted on. And lo and behold, they took a problem in Scarborough and they moved it, right into right into North York. And, the biggest challenge here when it comes to the impact is that you're basically saying people don't matter when it comes to having their voices weigh in on decisions like this, if you don't give them the opportunity to actually talk about this issue, to weigh in on the issue, to share their ideas. Like, we have people now coming forward saying, hold on, we have some ideas about, how this map can be changed or tweaked to change things to better support the community. So I think the biggest impact is the fact that people are feeling like they don't matter and their voice doesn't matter. And that's a big problem in democracy, especially when we have such low voter turnout these days.
Okay, and talking about the political map, what could be the impact if we are talking about Toronto has already 25 federal ridings? So take it off your riding, Don Valley East, means reduced to 24. What is going to be the impact and how it can escalate to provincial representation and also municipal representation?
Right. So, well, the impact, for a city like Toronto, is one less seat in Ottawa to advocate for its community. And, that's a shame, considering the city is growing. There are more cranes in operation in Toronto than any other jurisdiction in North America. 252 cranes in operation today. The second largest, the second city with the largest amount of cranes would be Los Angeles at, I believe, 52. So you can see the stark difference between Toronto and the rest of North America. Toronto is the fastest growing city in North America. In addition to that, it represents 20% of the entire GDP of Canada. So this is a very significant city that should have the right representation in Ottawa. And if we lose a seat, we've seen in the past provincial governments and municipal governments align with the federal boundaries. And if that does happen, we will lose a provincial seat, a city hall seat, and a school board trustee seat at the TDSB, and it will also impact the Catholic School Board.
Okay, and just last Monday, the majority of Toronto councillors said, hey, we support your request and the riding of Don Valley East should be kept as it is. So it's gonna help, this is gonna help in any way?
Well, listen, at this stage right now, the process I've said from the very beginning is a very flawed process, because the only way that anyone, including councils, citizens, advocacy groups, can actually participate at this process at this point is to send me a letter. And I have 5 minutes in front of the committee called the PROC Committee, which is Process in House Affairs. It's a committee of the House of Commons. And I have the ability to go to that committee and to actually, for 5 minutes, speak. Then they'll ask me questions. Now, the problem with this situation is that it doesn't allow people, the citizen, to participate. When City Council takes a position like this, it sends a very symbolic message. But I will have to take that message. And I think that the city should be able to go to PROC. If it's the last resource, the city should be able to send its mayor or a city council designate to give PROC their position. That's something that I've heard councillors saying that they would like to do, to be able to speak to this issue. So I don't know, how much influence it's going to have, but I'll tell you, I'm very proud of the City of Toronto, its council, for taking a very strong position on this and saying that that they feel that this is a bad thing for Toronto. And I think the citizens of our city should be proud of what City Council has done under the leadership of Lily Chang, folks like John Burnside, Josh Matlow, Councillor Pasternak, and of course, our Deputy Mayor.
Okay, and MP Michael Coteau, I have here, as I mentioned, your response to the commission dated on March 10, and you propose 4 recommendations. Can you mention some of them or briefly?
Yeah, I'll go through each of them. Yeah, I'll go through each of them. The first one is really saying, hey, hold on. Toronto needs to have 25 seats. Like, just stop with the cutting. Toronto needs to have 25 seats. Number 2, that the process is broken. PROC, the committee, needs to study this issue and look for ways to fix it. Number 3, consider the further consultation of this. You have the power as a committee or as a commission to actually consult more. You should do that. And finally, that there are communities of interest that are there, and we should be able to respect those communities of interest, those traditional neighborhoods that make up the riding of Don Valley East, places like Victoria Village, places like Parkwoods, Fenside, Underhill. These communities have been there for a long time. And another thing that we do speak about is the Victoria Park line. Respect that line, and if you are going to cause damage to that line and start to blend in these neighborhoods that traditionally have fallen into Scarborough or North York, do as little damage as possible. So those are some of the pieces that we talk about. I've always been an advocate for Toronto having 25 seats, and I'll continue to fight for that as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned, and I like what you mentioned, what is important, the community interest, that we are talking about, okay, demographic area and how is in this percentage and to keep the balance. This is the argument for the commission, but at the same time, you are talking about people's family, new immigrants. It's not the same a riding with Canadians well-established or a riding with communities, with immigrants and recent immigrants, newcomers. Is totally different, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, and what is next? What is going to happen next in this timeline?
Yeah, well, that's an important question. And, it seems to be the number one question people are asking. Well, we're waiting now for the PROC committee to call me so I can make my presentation to that committee. And then at that point, we will wait for the committee to make its recommendation to the commission, and then for the commission to come out with its final report, which will be independent of the House of Commons, and it will make its recommendations.
Okay, so you mentioned the House of Commons, so it's possible that you hope that it's gonna happen something, and finally the commission decide to keep that your writing?
We're hoping that the commission will revisit what it's done by suggesting these changes without any consultation and reverse its decision. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, MP Coteau. Thank you so much for your work, for your explanation about how important it is to keep the 25 federal ridings in Toronto and also the service for newcomers and communities. And good luck with this fighting.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for taking time to focus on an issue like this. I know it kind of gets into, it's a very technical kind of argument. It's it gets into the weeds, but at the end of the day, this is about democracy. This is about people participating in a process to have their say on how borders are set up, and what the process is like to vote. This is all part of that, and I just want to say thank you for expressing interest in this and covering it. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael Coteau, and thank you to our public to being here, and see you in the next program, The Essential Channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.